relatively soon after this. So when you get the DAX, you will have all the links that you need in the DAX. During this session, I will copy paste the link for the shared repository, where you will find the DAX and instructions on how to access recordings. We will get to that slide at the very end when when we go to the outro slides and we talk about those important operational things. Once again, the same as yesterday, I will give you the link for the repository and password, which is BTP with lowercase as always. Okay, then let's quickly progress with the content, and we will continue with the organizational part at the end. So let me see what else I want to cover here. Right, so yesterday we stopped with custom handlers. So this is it. I don't know if I mentioned that. I mentioned that, so I just want to to emphasize that once again. So Control-Shift-P was the palette and that open Fiori application generator. So I don't know how many of the steps, I guess, stopped at some point. So over here, many of them from the command line. Definitely, you don't have to use it in the UI mode. Really, I did things like in this way, in this exercise, and click one by one in the UI. We have a couple of options. That's what you're already used to. Sometimes we execute things from the command line interface. Sometimes we demonstrate the alternative that we do things from UI. So this is how you would generate UI elements. So you always have a utility like that. For us, it would be Fiori elements. And then, for example, I select list report page. We talked about floor plans yesterday. Prepare templates, Fiori templates, where you just add a couple of annotations. With metadata, you alter the behavior of the template, but everything else, like the functional behavior, the navigation between elements, whatever the JavaScript is in the background, that's all provided by Fiori and SAP itself. So you don't code anything. You just, in a low-code mode, you just specify what exactly you hook up your template to the actual data model in the background, and you get the default and working default template. Then you alter the behavior if you with annotations. So over here, you would select the list report page, and then the source. This is if you want to use the UI tool. Just give some time to load. Over here, we would say use the local cap project, because this is how we data. Just give it some no. So browser path is this one, risk management, as you're already used to. I see today it's working a bit slower. So for us, it was the risk service that we exposed, if you remember yesterday. And now we have the actual service in behind the template. You specify the main entity. This option is not that significant. But again, you specify a couple of things like the module name, the app title, namespace, and over here, like MTA will do today, other options are not that important for this particular moment. You click next, and it's the deployments we're going to cover later. Basically, when you say, okay, you get all the elements that we've created manually yesterday. Again, I remind you, as always, we do that with Git checkout. For this particular instance, I don't have anything to UI. Couple of options always. UI, if you want UI guidance, if you want to use it, then the command line interface, as we use that pretty much, and you always have the Git checkout prepared branches that can be used as always. So I have some person who says that he's not able to hear anything. So just please confirm that you can see that you can hear me. Okay. The screen we can make bigger. This is absolutely the biggest what the biggest one. So options like please confirm you also see the browser over here, because I've get lots of different confusing messages. So just somebody pop up a message that you see the browser with the Business Application Studio. Okay, excellent. I'm getting quite a different messages over here. So it's let's quickly progress toward custom handlers. So you remember yesterday that I was talking about we expose the service, and then I've mentioned that I've underlined that the actual step where we expose the web service, we call that one generic handlers. Then I just explained why we do that. The point was that, as I mentioned, CAP is an event-driven model, so it's basically about those CRUD operations that we execute with your data services. So creation, reading, update, and deletion of specific business objects, entities as we call them over there. We expose services for a purpose. So basically, we just use generic handlers. When read event happens for example, risks object of ours that we've seen a few moments ago, we just let the generic handler to do its job, whatever it is in the background. If you don't want to customize it, you don't care what are the required steps. But actually, we just read some entity data, and we let the generic handler in this case to do everything else. Now things get a bit different if you want to customize that behavior, because rarely you will be satisfied with only the default behavior. For real life projects, of course, it's lots of things that need to be added. Not at all points, but at some points you need some logic, business logic, which is specific to your client. So over here, we're going to use a single example. Basically, we have two fields that you've seen yesterday, impact and criticality. So just for the sake of the exercise, if criticality is once, if impact field is bigger than, let's say, 100,000 over here, we want to set criticality to once. Otherwise, if it's smaller than 100,000, we set criticality to 2. So we will need to add some custom behavior to do this. Before I approach with that, here is this large diagram in front of you. It's not that complicated. It's actually how you alter the standard flow. Usually the actual event and your event handler that as a handler to that event, and the response that it provides. So what you can do with custom handlers, it's 3 points where you can assign your custom handler to. You probably notice it right away. One is before the handler, the other one is after. Over here I have multiple lines because I want to cover all the cases. And those on. So before and after is, of course, that you ask custom logic. You can use all of them, and like you can chain up multiple custom handlers, like over here, multiple custom handlers on the same before event. You add your custom behavior before or after the generic handler, but if it's on, then you're replacing the generic handler. That's an important thing. So you have to add, if you use on event and you want to add some custom logic, that's usually when you want to replace the generic handler and you want to code everything on your own. So here are just a couple of options of what you can do. So don't break your eyes by just analyzing the diagram. It's just like examples of a couple of options that you can apply for yourself. So let me just see. This page is not really behaving. PDF is not behaving in the best way. So what we want to do here is like git checkout number 5. So back to the Business Application Studio, git checkout number 5, custom event handling, and let's see what we have from the code on the left side. I expect this will refresh soon. Here it is. Again, this problem that persists with the package JSON marked in red. Usually, the easiest way to resolve it is that you just do the, for example, checkout of the last branch, which for myself is git checkout. I think 15 is over here. Right, it's the continuous integration, continuous delivery. Then you do the checkout and you do npm install command, the one that we applied yesterday. So that one automatically installs all Node.js dependencies, whatever module is missing, it gets installed. I did it yesterday, and this is what I'm a bit puzzled with. To me, it sounds like different branches maybe use different versions of individual packages. So because these things sometimes happen. Again, if the code running breaks, then I will just execute npm install. Otherwise, I don't want to wait for 30 precious seconds, and I'm just going to continue. So custom event handler. Let's see what we have over here. This is the 2 files that we get. So important thing is, like yesterday, if you remember, inside of the service folder, risk service CDS, we defined our own specific web service. It was a super short thing, just saying entity risk as a projection on something on the data model itself, and we have risks as post as an OData CRUD web service. So that was it. Now, if you want to add some behavior, that's always a similar pattern. It's risk service JS file, and we started with the actual Node.js portion of our project for the first time. So it's the point is that you use the same name as for the service definition. It's just the JS file. So let's see what we have in the JS file. Module exports, that's basically just the property that if you assign something to module exports, that means that this function over here that you have, that's becoming an externally visible API of this method of this particular module. So other files can use it also. So this is it, nothing more than assigning to module exports. Service IMPL from implement, it's basically just adding something like behavior which resembles like, for example, Visual Studio guys like IntelliSense. It's nothing functional over here. The key thing is in our custom handler is this portion over here, and I'm going to do it in reverse order. So we're going to iterate through all risks objects, and we're going to say, okay, if impact is bigger than 100,000, then set critical field to 1. Otherwise, set that one to 2. So this is the main loop of our code. Over here, we did nothing but a conversion to an appropriate arrayed format. Now this is all running when. So after, because we said we're going to run this one after the actual generic handler. So read is the event of the risk entity, and data is something that we get forwarded from by the system to the handler itself. So we use read event for risks entities. Here it is, risks, just the entities over here that we have defined the service, and the read after the read event happens, we add this functionality, and this is it. We have our custom handler automatically by the system itself, only because it's placed in the file of the same name, it gets added to the standard functionality. So this is how you add custom behavior. So let's run this one just to remind you once again, CDS watch. If this one is not working 100% sure, then we're going to run npm install. Otherwise, I expect it's going to be fine. CDS watch, it was a testing server here for us in our local instance. So again, we got like a testing version of our code deployed, local instance inside of your BDP trial. When I say local instance, I mean that we do not deploy to the productive cloud foundry over here, but use just test utilities that we have inside of BDP. I'm going to click on index.html. If this doesn't load properly, npm install will be the solution. Seems it's working. So risks. Again, we have that little object page that we've seen yesterday, the changes, will be exactly this, the coloring and the marking that we have because of the classes we have specified. So it's just 1, 2, 3 priorities over here. And so that's it. Some custom behavior, nothing else. So we are fastly progressing further. The annotations, that's the file that I missed. So annotations is like the UI portion, the actual change in the UI. That's what I didn't open. Let me find the file. So basically over here, you can check it out later. It's some UI that adds behavior to the actual impact and priority criticality. So we talked about this yesterday. Again, a couple of changes. The important thing is that you remember anything specific to UI. If you want to add some annotation, and I'm going to show you the place you can and read about it in more details. But that's not anything that you cannot hit from Google on your own. If you just type in SAP CDS cap CDS annotations, you will be guided to the exact page. Here we have just a couple of lines that we basically need to have this UI organized a bit different for priorities and criticality. And this is it. Everything we have for the custom handler. So we just added important is that we add custom behavior by using the file of the same name. We use for the very first time, we use Node.js. We used our custom handlers, and everything that needs to be specified from the UI perspective, we add that one to annotation CDS. Okay, so again, read mode. Error handlings, I'm really not going to spend too much time on that one. You can check it later. That's definitely not one of the key topics. It's just, let's say, some of the methodology about how errors are handled. The important thing is that you notify the user and that you just you log unexpected errors, but not to catch one that you cannot handle. So over here, I have a couple of lines of how usually it's done inside of CAP. So you'll be compatible with the whole framework and the behavior of the elements. Nothing else I want to do with lesson 3. So let me go to unit 4 right away. So we've completed this part with the custom handlers. Now we want to connect to an external web service. So we have lots of steps to go over. Again, as I said, the important thing for myself is that we cover the basics of this of the CAP framework, because all that we do now, it's definitely not something that you cannot do on your own. The basics is something that I definitely want to have covered. Elements like data model, CDS, how to expose a service, how to work with Fiori itself, custom handlers, how to connect to the actual external systems and use API Hub, things like that. I have to have covered. If we do not cover something like continuous integration, continuous delivery, I mean, it's an important topic for an important enterprise topic, but definitely not the key one for us over here. So as I say, the goal is that we cover major technical topics, and that we surely at the end spend 30 minutes or a bit less that we go over operational things. Back to the support for external API. So very important portal for people who never saw it, never used it. API SAP.com. So this is called SAP API Business Hub. It's a single central point inside of SAP world, which is used for multiple purposes. Very useful place. So it's one of the many things that you can see over here is that APIs for all SAP systems, not all of them, for those systems that product management teams decided to expose and provided all required materials, which will mean like most of the, I mean, it depends on the product strategy actually, but for you, it will be that you will find all required systems over here. But I was getting like quite exotic questions about some legacy things or recovery systems because people expected to find absolutely everything. Anyways, all important systems are here. So if you want to check some API of any important system of yours, so you go to S4HANA Cloud, for example, here. We're going to talk about a bit about the other elements, but here you get APIs of all important systems, all important APIs inside of S4HANA. And for example, the next selection over here is the actual flavor, the technology of API. So I'm going to select OData version 2 because this one I use for the exercise. And I'm over here, I'm going to say, I think business partner we're going to use. So here it is. So over here we have API products, so packages of individual API methods, because APIs are so numerous that you definitely do not check those one by one on the level of the single product operation. Those are packed in products and then in larger groups. Business partner API. So you click on that one, and lots of things you can do over here. If you say try out, you will get a list of all possible options. So, for example, it's like you see all individual properties. So business partner, and for example, get the business partner will give you an option to select your environment over here, a sandbox for myself. This is what I've selected, SAP Sandbox, and then click run and test it. Get like get testing calls over here. This is the response. So all those things you can do in SAP API Business Hub. I'm not going to do that at the moment. I just wanted to mention it. A couple of other things that I would like to point over here, like we will definitely need, you can get all the required details, for example, API specification, that one we will need. So here you will download you can download the actual format that you need. For us, it's going to be EDMX, sorry. So here you download the specification of the API and you're able to import that one to your project. Lots of other things you can find right here. What I will need is the actual URL. So I'm just going to copy this one because I plan to use it later. My notebook over here. And check it out. Lots of other useful things you can find over here. The references. I'm not going to waste any more time on that. I just want to spend a couple more seconds, a minute or two actually, over here to give a couple important hints about what else you can do in the API Business Hub. That's not a topic of this course, but you cannot do SAP without that. So it's for example, if you're interested in integrations, let's say that the first two systems that I've noticed over here, those are S4HANA Cloud and Ariba. So let's say that I want to implement an integration between S4HANA and Ariba. So then I'm going to say, okay, I'm interested in S4HANA Cloud and I want to integrate, here are the integration packages. I want to integrate with Ariba. Now we're in the S4HANA Cloud portion of the portal, and I want to say, okay, discover integrations. Okay, I want to integrate this with Ariba. So I cannot spend too much time to inspect all the contents. Lots of useful things are visible over here, like business processes. You can get all templates, and that drives your implementation. Here you have the integration packages. People who saw the cloud integration at any point probably know what this thing is. It's a pre-packaged integration flow between S4HANA and Ariba for a specific business process over here. So this one is like buying into Ariba buying integration with this. This is the standard one, for example, and inside of it, this is the integration package. Instead, you will find individual integration flow, right? So more granular business process so this one is the standard integration, and it's the particular one is the replication of purchase order. You just download this one. If you click on it, you just download it. Of course, you have lots of useful things that you can find here, but you download it and you upload that one to your own integration, cloud integration flow. Then you change whatever you want, click it the way you need it for your project. I mean, add some custom logic if you want, and use it for your. But you have everything prepackaged, so very little you need to do to connect S/4HANA and Ariba in your particular project. So let me see if something else I want to point out over here. So maybe I mentioned the integration flows. Things like one domain model, if you remember, I mentioned it yesterday when I was talking about the master data integration inside of the data pillar. One domain model that's let's say the uniform domain model for all SAP systems. So if you, for example, use business partner in between many systems of SAP which have different history and definitely use different internal domain models. This is the way to have the let's say all the systems talk to each other. And if you, for example, have master data with some business partners, the fact that S/4HANA and Ariba use very different databases and data models should not be an obstacle to have master data synced between systems. It works in a way that you have one domain model, which is the matrix that says how exactly S/4HANA cloud data needs to be synced to Ariba Cloud Business Partner data, because because mappings are very well known in between S/4HANA Business Partner and Business Partner. I'm just now giving a single example in one domain model. The same thing applies for Ariba to one domain model. So when master data integration knows how to map data, how to replicate data between these two systems by using that single one domain model interface, which is the joint domain model for all SAP systems. So you can inspect what that domain model actually is. What are the objects inside of the domain model? What are the properties? You can see them here. So business processes I mentioned, and a lot of other things. Events, for example, because we need those for CAP, for other things. All that you can find in the API Business Hub. So for my own particular case over here, I'm going to do we just save this particular URL, git checkout number 6. I will interrupt the CS watch and say git checkout number 6 external API. I think we're fine now. So let me see what else I want to see over here. So if you remember, a couple of moments ago, I've shown you the place where you can download that EDMX file. Why you see it twice over here is because for this particular example, the guys who created the example, they just added the EDMX file to the project itself in the SRV folder over here. That's how they did it. The point is that if you run command cd import and you specify the file name wherever it is, the system itself will import the service, the external service description, create this external folder, produce the CSN file, very specific format that a CAP project can use, and also store EDMX for the over here. That's just the copy of EDMX. But anyways, the system needs it in the external folder so it can operate fully. So now I have the service description, import, and I just check the other 3 files and the changes. In the package JSON itself, at the very bottom, I have the actual web server that I will connect to. So it's just the description of data, and a couple of basic elements over here. API Business Partner, that's what I expect to find over here. Where it is, the web service itself. Now the definition is broken into multiple subcomponents over here. The API business partner is one that we'll be using to connect. So we just specified it in the package JSON because later on we'll be using the file. So let's see what else I have. Schema CDS, changes in the schema CDS. So back to the data model itself. Actually, let's leave this one open. So we have everything back in the data model, in the schema CDS. Well, so let's see what are the changes. Here we have a couple of changes. So what does it say? Next to our own risks and mitigations entities that we defined yesterday, we are defining a new one. Over here, we're going to use, like, again, we're just working around the directory structure of our project. So it's like one folder back, then yes, you remember this is the exact file over here. So from that one, we're going to use the API business partner service description. This is just an alias over here, the way it was used in this file. The key thing is that I'm defining a new entity now, business partners, as a projection or something which is available in an external file that describes the external system. So it's external a business partner. So let me just check where that is exactly over here. So here it is, the definition of a specific web service, because if you remember, we had lots of those of different APIs. I care about this one only, or because I want to fetch the business partner object itself. Back to the schema. So I see if I missed anything. Right, this is what I missed. So I just want these three properties. I don't care about other things. So the business partner itself, the entity contains other properties over here. For the sake of our own exercise, I just want to see the these three objects: business partner, last name, and first name. These three properties. So this is what I need for schema. So now we have an entity defined, but that entity sits in an external system. And you've already figured out that that external system that we use is going to be the S4HANA, but we access S4HANA through the capabilities of API Business Hub, through what's exposed in the API Business Hub. At the very end of the day, Unit 8 will be something that where you will have you will have an example of how to connect to S4HANA directly if you're interested. So just after these academies, you can use the decks and see what are the exact steps that you need to connect the two systems. Not too many steps, like a couple of them you can use. Of course, you need access to S4HANA system in order to use that, so you will not be able to do it. But if you have some testing instances and you have time to play with it, you're interested, you can do that. That's Unit 8. Now we're just using API Business Hub and what we have in S4HANA. So let's see what else we have over here. It's the risk service CDS. So let's see what are the changes in the service description itself. So let me just find where that is. It's over here. CDS. So a new entity, business partner, as part of the service, because we defined the new data model entity. Now we're exposing another object over here in the service itself. The projection again on the entity, thing else, and this one we leave as a read only. So let me see if I want to have something else stated over here. Again, it's the specifications. That's something that we mentioned already. Right, so let's jump to the next step. I'm not executing anything because we're slowly preparing this, and again, I will execute. I will run CDS watch in the end, and if all is fine, we'll see the business partners, and otherwise, I'm just going to try with PM install to fix it. But as I mentioned, we have lots of things, so the key point is that we just talk about main technologies over here and not really to do any deep dives in code and run specific services. So we prepared, we just have the basic definition of the data model in the service. Now we slowly progressing toward the actual connection to the Sandbox API. Over here we need another branch and code checkout. So it's git checkout 7 connecting to Sandbox. So a couple of things we need over here. The first file that jumps in, I don't see that one checked in over here in the code version. Probably with a good reason, because it contains the slow. Another return to the actual. No, this one. It's okay. Let me just open the browser. To the API Hub. So whenever you are in the API Hub, if you go to settings on your own profile and you click Show API Key, I'm just not going to click this one because that's my own API key. But it's the click on this one, a pop-up appears, and that's your own API key, the very unique information that you need and from outside API Business Hub in order to access its resources and, for example, send a call toward any of those API. So everything you need, that's the API key over here. But what I need from my own project in my own local instance over here, it's the actual env file. So let's go to, I'm just going to say new file. So whatever you put in the .env, the important thing is that this is something that is environment specific variable. So if I say API key equals and take my own API key, let me just quickly unshare. So I do that. A kind of like, let's say, private information, because anybody can run these testing facilities on my own, kind of like, this is again just the testing. So I'm just going to add that one to the env file and close it and quickly share again. So screen 2. So nothing else I need over here. I have the environment file, but API key, very short one. That's the first change that we have for the local version. So let's see what else we have in the service itself. Risk service JS. Risk service. Let me just find it. So many files over here. So risk service JS. Let's give it a few moments to load. So let's see what exactly we're going to do in risk service. Again, I'm just running through the portions. I think this is the next step, right? Right, yeah, this one is the next step. So I will need these two for this particular one. So this is the actual connection to the service. So CDS we use, connect, and we connect to the actual API business partner. If you remember, just a few moments ago, we've defined that one in the package JSON over here. So API JSON, very button. So this is where we define the web service. And now this is another change that we have. It's just actual URL specified clearly over here for this step, because that's the one that I've copy pasted a few moments ago from the API Business Hub. In the risk service, this is the actual connection. So let's see what exactly we do with that connection, how we access the system. And the next step will be this. I don't think that, yeah, this one is like, because it's the same file and the single branch, it had to go immediately. So here's what I do. Again, I'm going to do it like the opposite way. It's the actual service. When we shoot a call toward the service itself, I'm going to pass the query for the actual data that I want to get and my own API key, which comes from the process environment variable. So process, it's like that's from Node.js. Environment is all all data which is specific to this individual environment. And the API key is something that I've just, if you remember, typed in my own environment. So the actual query over here that I'm pasting, so I want to fetch all business partner objects from S/4HANA, but I don't want absolutely everything. Let's say that this is a testing system and I have some junk data. I just want to filter those which have last name and first name, which are some quality data. So this over here, I guess it's given just for the sake of demonstrating of other syntaxes that you have inside of CAP. Of course, we cannot talk of everything, but this particular one is called CQL. So it's CDS query language. So you can use this syntax to specify what exactly you want. Lots of different syntaxes you have available depending on the context. You can use those. So this all runs at the moment when we again a handler. We're defining a handler for business partner entities to over here from the entity list, the read event for business partners, and this is the actual function that we're going to use, that we pass as the handler. So what is the idea? The idea is that if you remember how we when we had the list display of risks objects over here, we have the default columns. Now I want to show the related business partner data. And I think it's going to be in this step or maybe the next one. So maybe I'm going to do the checkout for number 8 immediately. Here is what we want to get in the end. Business partner, just another column, and we want to fetch data from S/4HANA. That's the difference. We're going to add that one to the actual object page of a single risk object. I want to go with the number 8 immediately, so I can really have some file to support me with what I'm talking about. So the idea is what? In our own risks, comma separated value file over here, we just specify business partner ID. So another column was added. If you remember, we were reading some test data from the comma separated value file, and that's what we use in our own SQLite database, which is used for testing purposes over here. That's how the framework was set up. Was set up over here in our own environment. When we deploy this to production Cloud Foundry, we should use SAP HANA for sure. For now, for us, this is how we specify the couple of data to have in our own database. This is what we did yesterday, but now what we're adding is the actual business partner ID. So here it is, like 3 IDs of that specific sandbox instance, 3 IDs of existing business partner objects over there. So I just need the 3 IDs. Again, this is just the demonstration for our own exercise. In my own project, I have the another column BP underscore business partner, which specifies IDs of the business partner objects in the external system. This one will get loaded, that's for sure. But then this is the moment when we go with the accessing the external system, the SAP DS/4HANA through API Business Hub. We basically over here, we're going to shoot a call and fetch all remaining data for the business partner. I have just the ID over here for this particular example. This is like a fictional example of ours, as I already mentioned. We have the IDs and we go to the external system to fetch all remaining data because we definitely need some information, right, to use to fetch the remaining data. So let's see what are the exact steps that we go for that. Implementations I'm going to do in the end. So let me move to the risk service itself. So here's what we do in the risk service. It's a specific of this implementation is that the generic handler that we have cannot handle external objects for sure. So because they sit in some external system, which is not really in the knowledge base of the of our genetic numbers. So the first step over here, the way it was done, is that the actual BP field, the reference itself, is simply removed. So we're not going to read any BP data in the risk object itself with the generic handler. So that BP is where? So in the data schema CDS, what is modified is it's this thing over here. So in the risks entity itself, we've added a BP field, which is an association to business partner. If you remember, a few moments ago, I've just shown you the new business partner object that we've added. So here it is. It's the BP itself. Very first step in this customization, it was done that it's that from the generic handler, let's say the portion that reads the data in the other way, we just omit the BP field. And over here, we just, I don't think this one is particularly important. Right. It's like we just want BP business partner. We have the ID loaded by the system itself from the comma separated value file. And we want to use this BP partner to load data from an external system and then set the actual BP property over here for our own risks. This all happens in the read handler for risks itself. So we override the default behavior, the default generic handler. So here we read all the informations except BP. This code portion is served only to remove the BP itself over here from the list. And now we do the rest of the loading of data loading. So let's just check what exactly it does. Again, I do it the opposite way. If I'm going to shoot a query toward the external system, which is done over here, in this particular line, I need the API key from the process environment. That's one information. I need the query, what exactly I want to query from the external system. So always the opposite way, the easiest way. I'm just going to take business partner, last name, and first name, the three properties that, if you remember, we specified over here: the key, the last name, and the first name. Only those three I care about in this service. But what exactly I want to do? Because I run this one in a loop. Because let me just see, it's like for all of them, for all the entities, I run this one. And what exact object I want to fetch? Well, I just want to fetch the exact business partner object where the ID of that business partner, this is the ID field, exactly matches my own BP underscore business partner, the data information that I've read from the comma separated value file, this one at the very end. So only that specific object in S4HANA I want to fetch. So this is what I'm just building my own query. And of course, I'm fetching the business partner entity over here. So that's my API call. When I fetch that one, the result I store in the BP over here, and that very entity I assign to my own risks object. So risk BP, as always, you can play with like the menus, and you can go to the definition and no definition. Okay, the definition is here. Schema, CDS, BP. This is where the definition is. So at the very end, we assign this one. Because generic handler cannot handle, of course, an externally defined entity, we just remove this BP portion of the load setting of the BP property over here for the risks entity. We override the default generic handler. We load information from the external system. We find the exact entity in the external system that we need, of course, separated file, and then we just assign it. This is it. So let me see if there's something else that I want to clearly point out over here, the annotations itself, the UI. So common CDS. Let me see what exactly we changed. Well, if you remember, we used common CDS to store some, let's say, human readable information. So for us, it was the business partner over here, some labels that we have, last name, first name for the business partner object itself. And over here, again, the same as we did yesterday, this is some, let's call it boilerplate code that we basically use just in order not to render the business partner ID, but to use description itself. So this is it, replace the ID with description. This is what the annotation does for the human readable label. And let's see what we have in the annotation CDS. Should be something only specific to BP. Let me just find it. Here it is. Nothing else but the actual business partner that was added. So I'm just going to do CDS watch. If everything is fine, I will get the BP partner object. Even if I don't get it, I will not waste any time to run npm. It will have this turning red because we have to progress. Everything's working, that's fine. So as I expected, that's just like a false market run line over there. So we have the business partner object loaded from the external system. Here it is, the new one. If I click on this, it's over here, just the basic description. I think this is one of the last name or the first name, whatever we specified in the annotation over there. So that's it. Everything we've added for the business partner object. So now it's 5 a.m. for myself over here in Belgrade, Serbia. I'm not sure what is exact time for you in the specific zone, Australia, India, or some other country that you're joining from. So guys, 10 minutes of a break. So I rest my voice a bit, grab some refreshments, make a bio break, and we'll talk in 10 minutes. Thank you for listening attentively, guys.
Recording stopped.